Thank you for attending Mornings with Mark, episode number 122, where Mark's guest will be Shawn Thomas. Good morning, Mark and Shawn. How are you?
Hey, Mike.
Hey,
How are you? Hi, everybody. Hi, Shawn. Thanks for joining.
Good to see you
again.
You too.
So today, Mark will be interviewing Shawn Thomas, entrepreneur out of Nashville, Tennessee. And as you know, Mark's out of Illinois and Wisconsin. So, Mark.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining. We've got a real exciting guest joining us, a very accomplished entrepreneur and somebody who's very passionate about helping other entrepreneurs. We're going to take a second, let Shawn tell you a little bit about what he does, what he's done, and then we'll dive into some of the details and the road that's taken him where he's at and the things that we have in common and some of the ways that perhaps he can help some of the people that I work with.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Well, I have kind of a pretty wild, crazy story out there. Army brat, grew up moving around a lot as a kid. Lived in 4 different places before I was 7 years old, mostly in the South, but ended up in Alaska when I was 7 years old. My dad had a choice between Hawaii or Alaska. Me and my brother were rooting for Hawaii, but we ended up in Alaska because he was a big hunter and fisherman. Stayed up through school there all the way till end of high school, graduated high school. During high school, MTV came out. So showing my age there, but MTV came out. I decided that I wanted to get on MTV, and that looked like the life that I wanted to live. And I knew I wasn't going to get there by living in a small town in Alaska. So I jumped on a plane and I joined a song and dance company in Southern California and started going to junior college. About 3 years into that, I ended up auditioning and winning a gig on Warner Brother Records and got a record deal and traveled the country with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus for a year as part of the show, which was really cool. Got on MTV, the teen magazines like Tiger Beat and Teen Machine and 16 and all those things. So it was pretty fun as a 21-year-old. And then after we got off the road, they said, "Hey, thanks, guys. You guys did a great job. Have a great life." And at that moment, here I am like on cloud 9. I'm like, okay, What am I supposed to do now? And I met a girl in Birmingham, Alabama while we're on the road. So I said, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do, but there was a cute girl that I met. So I'm moving to Birmingham, Alabama. So I moved to Birmingham, Alabama and got a job waiting on tables. And here I was playing Madison Square Garden one day. And then the next day I'm working at a family restaurant waiting tables. Talk about busting your ego up. Yeah. And so I had a short stint of just doing, odd jobs, having fun, just trying to figure out who I was at 20, 22, 23 years old. Ended up moving to Memphis, Tennessee, getting into the insurance game, selling insurance. And I did that for about 5 years and still was trying all kinds of get-rich-quick schemes. I call it my decade of desperation, which was from the time I was 22 to 32, because I was that typical quintessential entrepreneur that was trying all kinds of things, but had no business experience, no mentors, no coaches, no nothing. And, claim bankruptcy, the whole typical entrepreneurial thing. And then in 2002, I had an idea as high-speed internet was coming out back in the day. After we were leaving dial-up and going to high-speed internet, I decided I had this great idea. Let's put a computer in the hotel lobby of a hotel so that when people were traveling, they had a computer to use. And so I had to prove out that business model. And fortunately, it ended up working out. And I had that company for 11 years. And during that time, I met an investor who became my first mentor. And he lived in Nashville. So I moved the company from my house over to his offices in Nashville. And we grew the company, went through a couple of mergers and acquisitions, and then ended up selling the company in 2013. And so after that, I took about 6 years off and I rented a place out in Manhattan Beach, California, and just enjoyed life and kind of reset, tried to find myself, traveled a few places around the world. And during that process, which is a crazy story, is I was a big Instagrammer.
Okay.
I loved Instagram. I was a user. And I came across these Instagram accounts that were all about millionaire stuff. So there were pictures of like gold watches and
sure, I remember those. Yeah,
Lamborghinis and mansions and all this stuff. And I'm like, who in the world is running these accounts? Because I'm a millionaire and that's not how I live my life. And so I started digging in and I found out I kind of dug down the rabbit hole of Instagram. and found out there was a lot of different things you could do on Instagram. This was back in 2015.
Okay.
And I ran across this guy and he says, "Hey, Shawn, there's a lot of money to be made in Instagram and building a following, and people will pay to advertise on your account." This was before influencer was really even a term.
Okay.
And so he said, "I can show you how to do this if you want." And he said, "Just come up with a good name." And so I started thinking about it. And after I sold my company, a lot of my friends and then people I would meet would always ask me for advice. And so I said, I want something with ask in it, and millionaire is kind of catchy. So I'll just come up with a phrase, ask a millionaire. So I created this account called Ask a Millionaire, and I opened up my life and shared who I was. And I said, hey, if you have any questions about becoming a millionaire and building a business, send me a direct message or leave a comment on my posts. And I just started doing this like 12 hours a day, like a business.
Yeah.
That's just the way that I operate, right? It's the way we operate as entrepreneurs. And I wasn't doing it for money. I was just kind of giving back. And I mean, literally the account grew and they're to 1 million followers within a couple years.
Wow.
And during that time, a lot of people became regular followers, and I started doing live streaming. And I'm actually trademarked the original live stream mentor, because I've done just literally thousands and thousands of live streams, just answering questions.
Wow.
And people just started saying, hey, would you be my mentor? Would you, help me in my business? So I formed a company called Accelerators Organization. And one of the things that you and I, as part of entrepreneurial communities and mentorship groups and networking groups, is we realize there's no one entrepreneur that really knows everything. So I started recruiting a bunch of my friends who are entrepreneurs and saying, hey, would you donate some time each month and give back? You're a successful entrepreneur and I need some more help answering questions around your area of expertise. So it could be a CFO, it could be a marketing person, it could be a recruiter, an HR person, whatever it might be. And so I formed this organization because what I found was there wasn't a lot of help for startup entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Once somebody hits a certain level in business, there's lots of people that want to sell to those entrepreneurs because those entrepreneurs have the money. But there's not a lot for the entrepreneurs that were like me, that didn't have a lot of money and needed the most help. The worst customer you could ever create, someone who needs the most help and has the least amount of money. So anyway, that's how I started Accelerators Organization. And so I pre-COVID, I started it from my house. I built out a lifestyle where I could use freelance workers from all around the world to run the company. And so I've been doing it for about 3 years now. We've got about a little under 300 entrepreneurs all around the world that we help, and about 25 mentors. Just really,
and your mentors are very esteemed. I mean, I went onto the website. I was very impressed. I know you said you're doing a lot of outsourcing. I know it's Brad Stevens is one of your mentors. So I imagine you collaborate with him on some of that. Isn't that his thing?
Yeah, so Brad Stevens, one of our mentors, he owns a virtual assistant company based in the Philippines with hundreds and hundreds of people that he's helped create jobs in the Philippines to be virtual assistants. And for startup entrepreneurs, one of the first hires, as you know, is to start delegating some administrative duties so that you can focus more on the sales activities in your business.
Yeah.
And so I linked up with Brad through one of the organizations, that I used to belong to, and convinced Brad that it'd be a good idea for him to not only be a mentor, but I could probably send him some business too. So he is one of the top experts on how to use a virtual assistant. And so, yeah, people just like that.
Yeah, I get a lot of stuff from nuggets from him as well. So he's definitely helped me. So, that's and your whole list of all of your mentors are of that ilk. So it's very impressive of what you've built there. And it's only been 3 years. So, I think there's a huge need for that. I mean, I have a lot of friends and clients that are business owners, and you're right. Nobody really tells you or helps you when you need it the most. It's a school of hard knocks. And I always tell people who are starting a business that, the secret is holding on to the life raft as long as you can until the cruise ship comes along, because, that's sooner or later it will, if you can survive the hard knocks that you have to suffer in the first couple of years. So, if you can truncate that and make that time shorter through some advice, it's really great. So how do you get the word out? Did you through Instagram and your huge following on social media?
Yeah, to date, everything has come organically from me just doing live streams on Instagram, putting out content, recruiting on there every single day, and then also just word of mouth. Once members join there and they really see what we're about, they've referred a lot of members to us as well.
Okay.
I'm still working on, because this is such a brand new company, still working on where and how to advertise a company like this. because there hasn't really been an advertising and marketing strategy of building an organization like this before.
Mhm.
And, because there's such a proliferation of online gurus and coaches and teachers, what I have found is people just really don't know who to trust. And if, we could be, which I think we're the best thing since peanut butter, but if they've never heard of the peanut butter and there's no reviews and they're not nationally acclaimed, they're still a little skeptical of something new. And I just think it's going to take time to build a reputation. And then at some point, as you know, with any business, you kind of reach a tipping point in your business where you just become known as the de facto organization or company in your space.
Yeah.
And then, you start to grow a lot quicker. So we're still kind of in that startup phase ourselves as well.
So how do your clients typically engage to get mentored on that? I mean, I know it's a subscription-based situation. So do they submit questions based on their specific situation, and then you filter it to one of the mentors that's best suited to deal with that? Or how does that work?
Exactly. Mark, you need a job? So what I did is, kind of like I was talking about before, is I personally, since I had already built and sold a company and accumulated some wealth, the last thing that I wanted to do with my life again was to start working the 80, 120 hours a week that I was doing in my last company. I wanted to be able to have a work from anywhere lifestyle, manage the team from anywhere, not have to go to an office every day, that type of thing. And so I built out a proprietary web platform. It's a membership portal that comes with a variety of different things within the portal. But from a dashboard perspective, you could think of like a link to an online resource center that is filled with hundreds and hundreds of articles across all areas of business. So your own personal business Google search already done for you for different areas of your business, whether it's finance or branding, team building, leadership, sales, management, all those areas of business articles already curated. Then another icon on the dashboard might be online training. So each month, we do 4 different monthly Zooms in the areas of finance, branding, sales and marketing, and financials or operations. Okay. And so we take those recorded video streams of our members having dialogue with an actual mentor each month, 4 of them, and then we download it and upload that. So there's ongoing online training, real time, real learning of entrepreneurs asking questions, getting advice. So there's hundreds of hours of curated content there. Then, like you mentioned, if someone will submit a question in our portal, they'll just submit a question to say, I have an employee. How do I get employees to follow what we tell them to do? Right? That's like one of the number one things a new entrepreneur has to learn is that, how do you get somebody trained, and then what happens when they don't do it? So they'll submit this question, it comes through, and we perform what's called mentor sessions. And you can see these for free on our YouTube channel for Accelerators Organization. We call them mentor sessions. And so the mentor, like Brad Stevens, will go on, and I will give him the questions in an email and a Word document that pertain to Brad's expertise. And Brad will log into our Facebook group, and he'll be like, okay, the first question comes from Mark. And Mark says, how do I train someone to do what we want them to do when they're on the job? He'll answer it, and then we download it and throw it up on the YouTube channel as well as in our portal. So we wanted to make everything in our group to be fluid because, as you know, most entrepreneurs, especially when we start out, everybody has different schedules. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't create an environment that said, hey, Mark, you're a member. If you want help, you got to be on the next call or the next Zoom at 7:00 on Monday. So I needed to create something dynamic that got people information and knowledge sharing and advice on their schedule, like on demand. And so everything that we do is submit the question, and then answers just come to you. And then I created a mobile application so that I can get a hold of everybody. And so I basically, if I want to send out like an announcement or an article that people should read or a video or even just something motivational each day, I went ahead and created our own mobile app so I could get a hold of everybody that's in our community.
Wow, that's really cool. So how does that interact with your Ask a Millionaire? Do you still do that?
Yes, I look at Ask a Millionaire as kind of my my lead gen.
Okay.
So Ask a Millionaire is where I still do my question and answer sessions on live streams. I still put up, fun and engaging and sometimes a little controversial content. It's adult language, so 18 and over, please. But so I use that as lead gen. So a lot of people know me from that. And to give you an idea, I've got 1 million followers on Instagram. A lot of them probably are, bots and all that type of stuff, but a legitimate, pretty large following. And there's only 300 people in my group. Someone joins inevitably from Instagram, and the number one thing they say is, yeah, I've been following you for years.
Interesting.
It takes sometimes years in this space for people to get enough trustworthiness and rapport that they'll finally go, okay, now this post spoke to me. You're right. I need to join.
Wow.
And then they always join and they say, gosh, I wish I would have done this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize that I was actually going to get, direct access to you and all these other mentors, and that you had all this other stuff. So like I tell all entrepreneurs that even might be listening to this, is it takes time to build a relationship and rapport. And sales is all about the law of averages. You just have to get out there and network and talk to people enough. And it might be the 10th time that you speak to them that they finally decide
that they trust
I'm going to
you.
hire Mark to do my finances, and it just takes time.
So Instagram is very intimidating to me and interesting. I'm somewhat introverted, and I've looked at that. I'm like, I'm going to build out my presence, and I can't seem to figure it out. So kudos to you. I mean, it's really difficult to get any sort of following. I think you have to be, able to put yourself out there, which I'm able to do, but I think that I'm still a little shy of the spotlight. So, I don't know how to post it properly. Mike says there's a formula to it, so he was kind of walking me through that. But so I'm curious, does that lead to TikTok? Is that going to be something you're going to be doing anything on? Because I see a little bit of a migration there for some folks.
That's a natural transgression, is that when a new platform comes out to, start making sure that you're on all platforms. As a kind of, I still look at myself kind of as a solopreneur, even though I've got a team working with me in AO that are freelancers that manage the organization AO. Man, it is time consuming to even just be out there on one platform effectively.
It is. And that's what I keep running into for myself. It's like, this isn't easy. This is a real serious commitment.
It is.
I think we, as the audience of people that follow people, we take it for granted how much actually goes into creating the content and making things look good and creating something that people want to follow. So tell me like what that entails.
Well, if it depends, it's like anything in business. It depends on what you're looking for from an outcome. If you really want to build it as a business and really gain an audience, the organic audience, the only way organic really can come into play, which usually doesn't happen, but organic can come into play if you already are like a celebrity, if you're extremely good looking, or if you're a musician or an artist and you are just insanely talented. If you take a look at shows like, like American Idol and X Factor and all those shows, that's what it's about, is the good influencers and entertainers that kind of go viral. They've got that it factor.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people have it. And I'm just like you, even though I might not sound like it. I test introvert on every test that I take with introvert. But I like being on, that's why I was a performer. I liked being on the spotlight. I like that side of the camera. I know I've been trained over the years how to be personable and be social. I've taken Toastmasters and communication classes and sales classes. So I learned the value of being a good communicator, but I'm also an introvert. But I learned in different things that I'm very outcome oriented. And I say, okay, well, if I want X, then I need to be willing to do Y. And so a quick crash course is, if you want to get successful on social media, you need a team if you can, unless you're already a graphic designer, a video editor, a videographer, a copywriter, and you want to learn and master the platforms themselves. It takes 5 different types of roles to put out great social media content. And so there are people, 1099 workers that you can hire that can do all of these facets, or you can just hire an agency that does it all. And so, but you can spend upwards of, $3,000 a month or more, but $3,000 a month probably, if you want to just basically be like, I just want you to do my content for me. If you need me to do videos, tell me what to do, how to do it. I'll show up, I'll do it, but you're going to edit it, post it, do all the stuff. Probably going to have to end up spending about $3,000.
Yeah.
And then that doesn't get you any of the content. And as you know, just like any business, you still have to go out there and advertise then.
Yeah.
Because the organic stuff doesn't work unless you happen to be Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys like you and I, you know, we like, hey, we're just, you know, normal guys.
Yeah.
How do we get seen? So there are strategies that can use to where you can go to like larger accounts. There's a guy in my group. His name is Tyler McBroom. He's a mentor now. And he paid me $1,500 a week for several weeks to promote his accounting videos and things that he was doing on his personal account.
Really? Okay.
And so because I saw that he was legitimate and he was putting up really good content, I said, I'll tell you what, I'll let you advertise on my page. You know, I'm like, your Instagram is almost like a magazine. It's a news feed. And so I promoted him. And so I charge him $1,500 a week, and I would promote him 3 times a day. And then my followers who trust me would follow Tyler. Tyler would pick up business out of it because they're like, oh, I need someone for bookkeeping or accounting. And then after a while, I reached out to him and I said, hey, you know what, Tyler, I want you to be a mentor now in my organization. And that's how we connected.
Interesting.
And so you have to, you know, it's a
different world than it was, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, it's amazing to see that. I saw one of the guys that you've spoken to in the past is Grant Cardone.
Yep.
Talk about energy. I don't know him personally, but I see him on social media, and I look at his energy level, and I wonder what it's like to have that sort of energy level. He certainly is a type A. It's really interesting I'm impressed with that because I don't feel like I have that skill set.
Not everybody wants to see. Not everybody wants to see that type of personality. There are a lot of people that have exactly your personality. Honest, straightforward. You don't have to be the most characteristic or charismatic person like Grant Cardone or any of the other Gary V's and Tony Robbins. And if you provide just solid, consistent information to people, that audience will find you. And if you just consistently keep putting it up, that audience will find you. If you'll send me an email, I'll shoot you an email of a couple examples of some accounts that you could do. But Tyler's account would be perfect. Tyler McBroom, it's just his name. He's talking about accounting and bookkeeping. How sexy is that?
Yeah.
Right. But I know that as it is with your business, I don't know how it is for licensing. You guys have to be obviously very careful from a compliance issue.
Well, compliance is vigilant. Let's put it that way. But I mean, after a while, you know what their hot buttons are and how to work with that. So that is an obstacle, but it's something we've been able to overcome for the most part. But it makes it a little bit more difficult than doing something on the spur of the moment on the beach somewhere or in the car, because they still need to take a look at it. But exactly. It's the world that we chose to work in here. So, I have a question. I know we're getting close to the end of our time. I'm curious, are there recurring themes that you're hearing from the people that are the people who are members of your site, the entrepreneurs that are looking for? Is there like a top 3 or 5 issues that come up on a regular basis for these folks? I mean, I have clients and friends in that boat as well. So I'm curious if there is some sort of a trend, top 3 type thing that people are always concerned about.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but a recurring theme in anything around this, and I hate to sound so cliche because it's so cliche, it really is about mindset. And I wrote a book, and I'm more than happy to get it over to you for you to give to put a link on here. It's an ebook that you can give out to your audience or anybody that's listening. It's called The Power of Naivety. And I did a TEDx talk around it. And it's really about, for someone that is trying to break the mold or change the landscape or reframe their life from what they grew up with, that's a really hard transition, because they're basically having to go against everything that they were taught by the people that they trust and love the most, their parents mostly. And so getting people to reframe that whatever they want in life, they can go after and they can get. A lot of times it's contradictory to what they were taught. And so really a lot of, whether it's personal training in a fitness perspective, entrepreneurial training and growing a business, investing, learning about their money and investing money. A lot of it is about psychology. And it's about understanding why somebody makes the decisions that they made, why they are so fearful about doing certain things, why they don't think bigger, why they're a control freak and think they're the only person that can do it and build the company themselves, and helping them realize that that limits them. So a lot of what entrepreneurial mentoring and coaching is about is psychology. It's about getting to know them and building up a trusting relationship to let them know, hey, we're going to rewire your brain. Because, and here's a really good example, because I deal mostly with startup entrepreneurs, and most startup entrepreneurs start not because they're trying to build a Silicon Valley type company. They just maybe don't have the education to get a $250,000 job. They might not have 10 years of sales training. But they've got work ethic. They will do what it takes to succeed. Now they need help with that. We have to teach them that when they start we have to teach them how to sell. So that's the number one thing. A small business owner, most people don't know how to sell.
Yes. Isn't that the truth? Yes.
Like, you got this idea, you know that you've got this good product. It's not going to sell itself. You got to get in front of enough people. So we have to teach them about sales and marketing. Then it's about what we were talking about earlier, which is delegating and learning how to understand where their time is best suited. And then most of them have a really, really hard time delegating because they've never been taught how to put out a good ad to attract the right person, put their duties down on a piece of paper, teach them how to do everything from a process perspective, manage them on an ongoing. They've never been trained any of this stuff. Yeah. And so what they do is, like myself, and why I'm so passionate about this is I would hire somebody and just think they were a computer. It's like, here, do this. Now leave me alone. I was a horrible first boss. So, yeah. But they've never been trained how to do that and build a team and the power of that. So they just go, you know what? If you're not going to do it the way that it needs to be done, I'm just going to fire you and I'm going to do it all by myself.
And then you don't get anywhere. Then you're stuck,
you get in this massive vicious cycle of frustration. Then you get burnt out and you're not growing. And so, that's the biggest part of it. All of that has to do with mindset is people just have to learn new things.
And, it's really important because the world is changing quickly, with the advent of the ability to outsource anything really to Fiverr, to Upwork, whatever the case is. That was a skill that I had to learn, and think, that was a blessing of the pandemic, is it gave me time sitting in my house to create a bunch of content and figure out how to utilize those resources and delegate. Because, back in the 90s when I started my business, delegating meant hiring somebody and then filling up their time. Now it's more of a gig economy. So if I need something done, I can go on the internet and find out who's really good at that and how much it's going to cost me. They're going to do it and be done. I'm going to pay them. And we're both going to go our separate ways, or perhaps re-engage in the future. So delegating is definitely a skill set that is evolving. And you're right. It's critical to free us up. As an entrepreneur, I tell my staff, I do three things. I do strategy, I manage money, and I try to build the company, grow the company. Everything else should be delegated from my standpoint for what I do here. And so it took me a while as I acquired, books of business to train the clients. Like, you don't want me talking to you about your statement, because that's my eyes not on the market, or my eyes not coming up with a strategy. So, it is all about figuring out what you do best and what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. So I see how that could be the case with startup entrepreneurs, and your service is really very cool. I wish I would have had it when I started my business 30 years ago, but I'm certainly going to check it out now, because you're never too late to learn something great, and your mentors are phenomenal. So kudos to that. That must have been some uphill battle getting all those great names to join you.
Putting those sales skills to work.
Yeah.
Putting those sales skills. Well, what I found is people like yourself, Mark, is when you reach a certain level of success, most everybody that I've met, they want to give back. They want to help others. They have a real servant mindset. When you get to a point in a size of a company like yours, you change from a dictator lifestyle of building a business to a servant. And all you want to do is help people. And you realize that the more people you help, the better the world's going to be. And sometimes you even make more money that way. So it wasn't that I'd like to take credit for, but it really wasn't that difficult to convince, our mentors to give back. It's an hour a month to answer some questions in a Facebook group that are pre-populated. So it's not a lot of time, and my community just gets the benefit all of it. So finding mentors has actually been the easiest part of the business, because there's so many great people like yourself, that want to go out there and help people just, unselfishly. So yeah, we're just trying to now find those people that don't know who to trust, and need help figuring out how to start that business and grow it as big as yours is, so that we can turn them into a mentor.
Well, I have a lot of clients and a lot of friends and peers that are, always in the startup mode, and business owners don't have a lot of places to go. I mean, your friends don't want to hear about your successes, and they don't want to hear about your failures. So that's why, organizations like EO and your organization really thrive, because they provide that service, and quality information is hard to come by as an entrepreneur. So I will certainly get the word out and tell people about this. People will see this on my site, and I'll forward it to some folks. And, I applaud what you're doing, and I really appreciate the time you took to come out and talk to me. I know that time is valuable, and I want to say thank you very much. And I'm excited to learn more about what you do, and I'm going to peruse your site a little bit deeper.
Sounds good. Well, next time you get down to Nashville, man, let me know.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you all for joining today with Mornings with Mark and his guest, Shawn Thomas. Stay tuned for another episode 123, when Mark will interview another guest.